Okay, so here's something nobody tells you about first impressions. Everyone treats them like this high-stakes exam, like you either nail it or you're doomed forever. But that's not actually true. What determines whether someone likes you isn't some perfect opening line or a killer joke. It's something way simpler and honestly kind of boring on the surface. It's whether you made them feel comfortable. That's it. Comfortable, not impressed, not entertained, just comfortable. And comfort comes from one specific skill that almost nobody actively practices, which is reading the room before you try to change it. Think about the last time you walked into a party or a work event or even just a family dinner and immediately started talking about yourself, your day, your opinions, your plans. Now think about the last time someone walked up to you and instead of doing that, picked up on something happening in the moment and used it as a bridge. Those two approaches feel completely different. One feels like a performance, the other feels like a conversation. And the difference between them is basically the entire game. Here's the thing. Most people think social skills are about output. What do I say? What's my next line? What's my exit strategy if this goes badly? But that's backwards. Good social skills are actually about input. You have to take information in before you can put anything useful out. And most people are so busy rehearsing their next sentence in their head that they miss everything happening right in front of them. The tone of the room, whether people are relaxed or tense, whether someone just got some bad news, whether the energy is playful or serious. You can't calibrate to a room you're not actually paying attention to. So step one, and I cannot stress this enough, is just shutting up internally for a second and reading what's actually going on around you. Not what you assume is going on based on your own anxiety, what is actually happening. Let's say you walk into an office and everyone's unusually quiet. That's information. Maybe there was just a stressful meeting, maybe someone got bad news, maybe it's just a slow Monday. Whatever it is, that room needs a different energy than the room where everyone's laughing and the music's loud. Most people either don't notice the shift, or they notice it and panic and overcorrect by being extra loud to fill the silence, which almost always backfires. Instead, the move is to match the energy first, and then slightly nudge it in a better direction. Once you've got a read, this is basically emotional pacing. You're not trying to fix the mood or hijack it, you're just meeting people where they are. Which, by the way, is one of the most underrated things you can do for another human being, because most people spend their whole day feeling slightly out of sync with everyone around them. And when someone finally meets them at their actual emotional temperature, it feels like relief. Now let's talk about the actual mechanics, because reading the room is only half of it. The other half is knowing what to do once you've read it, and this is where a lot of people freeze up. They think, okay, I've noticed the vibe, now what? And honestly, the answer is smaller than you'd expect. You don't need a grand gesture, you need one accurate observation stated casually. So if the room feels tense, you don't need to crack a big joke. You can just say something low-key like, "Rough day, huh?" and let the other person decide how much they want to unpack that. If the room feels playful, you can lean into it a little more. You can be a bit more relaxed with your humor because the room has already given you permission. The mistake people make is bringing the same energy to every single room regardless of what that room actually needs, like showing up to a funeral with party energy or showing up to a celebration acting like everything's fine but kind of flat. That mismatch is what makes people feel like something's off about you, even if they can't articulate why. Now here's where it gets interesting. This same skill of reading and matching energy also applies one-on-one. And honestly, this is where it matters most, because most of your meaningful interactions in life are not going to happen in a crowded room. They're going to happen with one other person across a table or a desk or a car ride. And when it's just you and one other person, the stakes of misreading them go up because there's nowhere to hide. If you're talking to a friend and they seem distracted, the wrong move is barreling ahead with your story anyway, hoping it'll pull them back in. The better move is naming it gently. Something like, "You seem like you're somewhere else right now." That alone does two things. It shows them you're actually paying attention to them specifically, not just performing at them, and it gives them an easy off-ramp to either open up or wave it off with, "I'm fine, just tired." Either answer is fine because you're not trying to force a deep conversation. You're just letting them know the door's open if they want it. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds like a lot of pressure, like you have to be constantly scanning people for clues. And honestly, no, it's the opposite. Once this becomes a habit, it takes pressure off because you stop trying to guess what to say based on some imaginary script in your head, and you start responding to what's actually in front of you, which is honestly a lot easier than making stuff up. It's like the difference between trying to remember a memorized speech versus just having a real conversation. One requires perfect recall under pressure, the other just requires you to be present. And present is genuinely the easier skill once you build it. Let me give you a few more examples because I think this stuff clicks better with specifics. Say you're on a first date and the other person keeps checking the door or seems a little jumpy. Instead of ignoring it and hoping it goes away, you can say something like, "You seem a little on edge. Is this a first date thing or is something else going on?" That's not accusatory. It's an invitation, and most people will actually appreciate that you noticed instead of steamrolling through the date pretending everything's normal. Or say you're at a family gathering and your usually talkative uncle is unusually quiet in the corner. Instead of avoiding him because it feels awkward, you sit next to him and just say, "You're quieter than usual tonight." Sometimes he'll wave it off. Sometimes he'll actually tell you what's going on. And either way, you've shown him that someone in the room actually noticed him as a person and not just a background character at the event. And honestly, that's the whole secret nobody wants to admit. How much people just want to be noticed accurately. Not flattered, not analyzed, just noticed for what's actually happening with them in that specific moment. That's such a low bar. And yet almost nobody clears it because everyone's too wrapped up in their own internal monologue to look outward for 5 seconds. The last piece of this, and probably the most important one, is that you have to let people opt out gracefully. If you read the room wrong, or you make an observation and the person shuts it down, that's not a failure. That's just information. You say your line, you offer the opening, and if they don't take it, you don't chase it. You don't repeat yourself louder, you just let it go and move on because forcing an emotional response out of someone defeats the entire purpose, which is making them feel comfortable, not cornered. So here's the actual takeaway. Before you walk into any room or any conversation, stop thinking about what you're going to say first and start thinking about what you're going to notice first. Read the energy. Match it before you try to shift it, and when you do speak, let it come from something real that's actually happening, not something you rehearsed in the mirror. That's it. That's the whole method. It's not flashy. It's not a hack. It's just paying attention like it actually matters, because it does. And once you start doing this, you'll notice something happen. People start opening up to you more, not because you're saying anything magical, but because for once, someone in the room actually saw them.